taking first cut. Golly.
Welcome to the First Cup Podcast. I'm Rick Gehman, and this is your President's Cup team selection discussion. It's your medical roundtable, updates on those who might be injured or missing some time, and wherever else this podcast takes us. Joining me to discuss it all, Mark Immelman is here. Mark, good to see you.
Hey, boys, good to be back. And I got to tell you, I am feeling like a different guy. The broadcast season is behind me. I've got one more to do, the President's Cup in the end of September, but I'm going to basically be at home father, dad podcast guy. So I'm really excited.
All right, father, dad podcast guy. Like to hear that for you. Patrick McDonald is here. Patrick, it's good to see you.
Good to see you guys. The campaign for Team Henley has come to a successful end. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but Russell Henley, U.S. President's Cup Dynamo, and excited to talk about him and others today.
Yeah, you were personally up there making the case for him in Canada. So congratulations to you. Mission accomplished. Kyle Porter is here. KP, hello, sir.
Well, given how many kids I had, I'm wondering now if there's a difference between father and dad, like Mark differentiated there.
I know.
Look, I meant to say father, husband.
Oh, okay. Yes, I
Dad.
can identify with being home, being father, husband. I would throw in like semi part-time golfer as well. Try to get a few rounds this fall, but yeah, a lot of. I thought there wasn't a ton of hype leading into the picks today, but I thought that the way it went down kind of left us quite a bit to talk about, which is always interesting.
Yes, we will talk about that real quick before I forget. Speaking of father, dad, we got deep into my family tree last night.
Ooh.
And we were able to get as far back as 1525. My 12th great grandfather was from Bern, Switzerland. We did not know that.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. One, how did you do this? And two, were there any surprises like, oh, I'm related to Walter Johnson of the Senators?
That'd be sick, right? So not that I'm aware of. So I don't know like related to these people, but basically, so the internet, right? There's this, I think it's called familysearch.org or whatever. And it's kind of like ancestry.com meets Wikipedia, because I think people can upload like their family history and confirm things and all this other stuff. And so my dad's line goes back to like 1525, but like my dad's mom's line, like that only went back to like the 1700s. So it's not entirely complete, but yeah, it was cool to see like the first generation that was born in Switzerland but died in America. So you know that like they were the ones that came over like in the mid 1700s was pretty cool. And it was a lot of stuff that we just didn't know where we were from.
I wouldn't have left Bern, Switzerland. It's gorgeous out there. Anyway.
I know. Made a mistake. We might have to move back and start it again on that side.
Yeah, there you go.
Is it expensive? Is it like, what's the
For what?
To search it, or is it free?
Oh, it was free. Yeah, you just have to make an account. It's free now. Like it's, I think it looks like somebody had done a lot of the legwork already. So I don't know how complete a lot of it is, but it sources everything. It'll source like obituaries, and it'll be like, does this look correct? And then it'll source like headstones. There's like a headstone registry, believe it or not. And a lot of times there's photos of them. It's like it gets kind of like weird pretty quick, but yeah, it's interesting.
What was the coolest part between 1550 and I guess present day? When did you guys come over to the States?
Like mid 1700s, and that's when the spelling of my last name changed. So it used to be G-A with an umlaut, U-M-A-N.
Gauman.
Like Gauman. Yeah. But now, once it got to America, it's been G-E-H-M-A-N ever since.
It's actually Gauman.
Gauman.
Correct. Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So we were steep on that last night.
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't have a great segue to the medical updates, but I'll do my best here. So we've got some news, and some of this we
protected by HIPAA.
There you go. We have the Jordan Spieth update, and Mark, we knew this was coming. He said a statement. I had a procedure on my left wrist last week, as I had mentioned was the plan. The operation went smoothly. He's grateful for the exceptional medical team, yada, yada, yada. He is looking forward to being healthy and prepared for 2025.
You know what? He's earned my respect that he went for so long with this wrist injury and kind of kept it mum. Because I think back to not this last RBC Heritage, but the one last year. And I had him, I think might have been on the Saturday, and he was warming up, and I had his group and I was watching him, and he was hitting it really, really well. And I was like, man, looks solid. And he goes, yeah, but I'm hurting. And I look at him like quizzically, and he goes, yeah. And he moves his glove, and he sort of shows me this almost cyst that was rising in his wrist right over here. And I'm like, wow. And he goes, yeah, this is the issue here, and it's called putting pressure on this and this and that. I'm like, so am I okay to say anything? And he goes, you can say whatever you like. He goes, I'm not going to say anything about it. And so he just kept on going through it. And you could see it sort of have a bit of an effect on how he practiced this year. You could definitely see how it slowed him down with the iron game, because, with something like that colliding with the ground at 100 miles an hour is not very comfortable. And so he went on for a long, long time, and not once did he sort of complain about it. So it showed to me a guy who was very, very brave. Again, now that it's out, I can say this, but when he was on my podcast, whenever it was, late last year, about 20 minutes before we're supposed to talk, he texts me, he goes, listen, I'm with my trainer right now. My hand has basically gone bad, and I'm having emergency treatment. And he used the term emergency treatment. And I was like, well, don't stress about it. He goes, no, I'll be ready in about 30. And so this has been a long time thing. And so I feel like missing the Tour Championship or whatever it was a bit of a blessing in disguise. And apparently the procedure went well. I texted him and he said, thanks, we're all good. So I'm looking forward to him being back. But I will say this, my brother, Trevor, had wrist surgery back in the day. And it's always difficult once you've worked on a joint down there that's close to the golf club. For these guys, when you're hitting a ball hard, there's always that little seed of doubt in the back there. Now, I hope that's not the case for Jordan, but it's real if it is. Either way, I've got massive respect for him for going on for as long as what he did without saying anything.
Yeah, interesting. And KP, add Jordan Spieth to that short list of guys that I'm just very curious about what happens in 2025. If he wins a major, I don't know how surprised I'd be. If he misses the cut at all four, I don't know how surprised I would be in classic Spieth fashion.
Yeah, I mean, kind of no notes on what Mark said. I would echo and I actually wrote about guys that exceeded expectations and didn't meet expectations for CBSSports.com on Tuesday. And obviously Spieth didn't meet expectations. There was obvious reasons for that. But I think after his third place finish at the Century in January, it was like, oh, okay, this could be an interesting year. And then it was just nothing after that. And there's one line of thinking, like you said, Rick, where, okay, maybe the wrist is healed. He's back to hitting his irons like one of the best iron players in the world. And he's contending if driver remains figured out, which bunch of big ifs there. And then there's another line of thinking, like Mark was saying, where, yeah, he's never the same again. And I'm hopeful for the former. And I think that, even in however long it's been since Trevor had surgery, 15, 20 years, like there's so much better technology and medicine and everything now to like get guys healed quickly and sufficiently. But I have no idea. And he probably has no idea how it's going to go.
Yes, nobody knows. That's the beauty of Jordan Spieth, is that nobody knows how this is going to go. Let's get to another full-fledged superstar here in Rory McIlroy, Patrick, and he is vowing, maybe that's not the right word, hoping to play a little bit less in 2025. He is already at a record pace in terms of tournaments and rounds that he has played, and he is apparently going to tee it up 5 more times before the end of the year on his annual what do we call that? The European swing of his schedule. Here's the quote. It's been a long season, and I'm just going to have to think about trying to build in a few extra breaks here and there next year and going forward, because I felt like I hit a bit of a wall post US Open and still feel a little bit of that hangover. Ideal scenario, 18 to 20 events a year.
Yeah, you can tell in the results that he hit a wall really after the US Open. Outside of the Olympics, it was kind of sloppy. He front-loaded that schedule in preparation for the Masters, if I recall correctly, saying he wanted to play more to kind of play himself into Augusta. And then after that, he added the Zurich Classic as well with Shane Lowry. And then from there, it seemed like it kind of got out of control a little bit. 5 more times. I'm wondering, is that the Irish, BMW PGA, a couple Middle Eastern events as well, the Abu Dhabi, Dubai ones?
That sounds right. What about, is there a chance he plays Zozo? Is that just out of the question?
Maybe.
It's not a signature. It's not a, remember when that used to be like a 70 player one?
Yeah.
Where is Zozo this year? South Carolina, Vegas, Japan?
Could be anywhere.
That's the CJ Cup.
Oh, my bad.
Zozo's in Japan. I don't think he'll play that one.
The whole ball runs together. That's on me. Maybe Hero. He was probably meant Hero.
Oh,
Okay.
Hero.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, it seems to me like he's going to try to figure out how to play into Augusta National differently than he did this year again, which is kind of par for the course for him. He's throwing spaghetti against the wall, hoping it sticks, hoping it's all cooked, and we'll see next spring if it works.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost, it's a little bit of a what's the hot dog meme of like we're looking around for the guy who did this, like it's not, I mean, yeah, I get that you got to play the signatures, you got to play the majors, but you don't have to play the Zurich. Like there's just a lot there that what did he play? Texas Open as well. He played a bunch that he didn't have to.
Yeah, and then you add in Zurich Olympics, that's 2 extra, and a couple more before the Masters to get ready, like he said he wanted to, and those are kind of the extra events, it seems like.
What you guys saying has got a lot of merits. I would add too that to me, McIlroy this year was a guy who was just trying to find some game. After being solid kind of early, through the middle part of the year, he just didn't look convincing whatsoever. And instead of then going home and just logging hours on the range and not really playing, he figured, well, I'm going to go and play under pressure and see if you can find a little something then. Because when you're playing under pressure, what you're doing feels vastly different to what you do when you're at home practicing, just because of pressure and because there's more consequence to every shot you hit. So there was a little bit of that going on. So he did play more events than usual. I feel like what he's going back to here is what he kind of used to do a little bit. And Rory, in my opinion, this year, a lot of it was the signature events, but a lot of it too was some other commitments and then just trying to find some game playing in tournaments. And it was a lot of golf. I mean, I'll tell you what, the last time I spoke with a lot of these guys was at Greensboro for the Wyndham Championship. And folks were running on fumes then. And then there's still 3 more playoff events for the guys who make it all the way. So there were some exhausted folks. And there was a lot of crisscrossing in the latter part of the season, was to Europe and back. And so there was a lot of travel, a lot of golf. And there's some pretty gassed folks right now. So I'm sure, President's Cup people and the like are going to be chilling. Whereas, then you got those other folks that are in Napa. So Rory, to me, I think next year will be more appropriate. I think he knows where his game is going right now, so that might make that decision a little easier too.
Yeah, and I sympathize with the fact that he's got to satisfy a bunch of different parties, right? European, PGA Tour, sponsors, like just a number of different people. And I think the other part that gets really interesting here is he's not 25 anymore, right? And so when you're 36, 37, 38, that's, and traveling the globe playing golf, that's different than when you're 25, 26, 27, 28, right? Like when, like Scotty's age. And I'm interested to see how that, he's always played a light schedule. Rory's always played a fairly light, like the Tiger schedule, the 20 events a year. But I'm interested to see if that factors into sort of the way he handles things for the rest of his career.
Sounds like we'll be trying something new in 2025 for Rory McIlroy. I don't think we need to discuss this one too deeply or even at all, considering it doesn't seem to be a huge deal, though I guess anytime you get surgery, you get on the medical corner, and Ludvig Aberg is going to have surgery on a torn meniscus that has seemingly he's been playing with since the Wells Fargo Championship. So it was not detrimental enough to keep him from playing, but he's going to be out about a month, and he's looking to tee it up again, Mark, at the end or mid-November on the DP World Tour.
Yeah, I just want to say this about that injury. He played this down as well. But I will say from watching him play, the young guy that I saw, look, he's still young, the younger guy I saw last year, everything he'd hit would be this hard driving cut. And here of late, you'd watch him, balls would turn from right to left in the air a bit more. And almost like a Victor Hovland, he started to play this. And I feel like a lot of that is because of the knee injury, because he just couldn't post up as hard as what he used to. I mean, the ball was still struck beautifully flush, but the pattern of the shots would vary. And then when you set up to cut one and you all of a sudden draw one, that to me, you sort of saw it happen over the weekend in the US Open, because he looked virtuoso for a while. And I was like, here we go, first major kind of thing. And then he disappeared because he just started to hit the ball left. And I do blame the knee a little bit on that, because when you're swinging as fast as that, and you've got to present the club face to a path to get the fade shot, a lot of that comes out of the core, which comes out of the legs underneath you. And when that left knee or that knee is not working very well, it's going to scuttle that area. And so draws start to happen quite easily.
I asked him about it somewhere in a presser, the PGA maybe, and he gave me like the, yeah, it's good. But I could tell he was lying. Yeah. I could tell he was. Yeah.
He was a little defensive about it at times. He's like, that's between me and my doctor.
Yep. Which you always know it's worse than he's leading on if you're that defensive.
Yeah, I was gonna say he did that kind of off and on throughout the year. There was somewhere else where somebody asked him and he got chippy. It was like end of the summer, maybe, Patrick.
Yeah, he's like, "What? My knee? What are you talking about?"
Yeah,
like the one with the torn meniscus in it. How about that one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
All right, Jets. We are going to turn our attention to the President's Cup teams. The captain's picks were announced earlier today, and we will break it all down. But first, we're going to take a quick break and hear a word from our partners.
My first hot take of the year. When Sunday football isn't enough.
Dislike that take.
Great take.
That other pregame show will put you over the top.
I'm all in. Let's go viral here.
Every Sunday, all the insight you need on CBS Sports Network.
And we're back. Patrick, you get to choose. You want to start with the international team or do you want to start with the American team?
Let's do baseball rules. So away team hits first. Let's go with the Americans.
The away team goes first. We are in Montreal, so the Americans are the away team. Automatic qualifiers. These were the 6 that played their way onto the team. Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, Wyndham Clark, Patrick Cantlay, and Sahith Theegala. That was the 6 that we knew. Captain Jim Furyk released his other 6 selections today. They are Keegan Bradley, Sam Burns, Tony Finau, Brian Harman, Russell Henley, and Max Homa, rounding out the 6. Now, Mark, we'll throw this to you first. I will note those 6 are the next 6 in the standings. It was all chalk for Captain Furyk.
Yeah, and look, that's the easy way to go, and it's the least controversial way to go. I do find it curious when you go on the website now and you search for the standings, they've scrubbed everyone 13 and below. So yeah, there's just 12 people there right now. And it looks to me like, okay, this is done and dusted. We're not going to say another word about both teams and the captain's selections. It looks to me like Jim didn't want to go past the letter H. And there were a few names. Will Horschel was there. And I think he had a pretty legit chance, really, with a win this year and the way he had been playing of late. And then Chris Kirk, he didn't have the best tour championship, but he's been a stalwart on that team before. And he, in fact, made the winning putts when they were over in Korea. And if I was Akshay Bhatia, I would be a little red around the gills right now because he put together a fantastic season. And if Team USA, now I don't know the inner workings of this thing, I'd know a little bit more about the other side. But if Team USA are looking to build for the future, why not give Akshay a run? There's no downside to the guy. He's easily pairable. He's powerful enough off the tee. He's really ironed out the woes with the putting. That broom handle putter has made him really sharp on the greens. And we all know match play is a putting contest. So I didn't feel like he would be a bad option. Just kind of reaching beyond the two guys that haven't really been playing very well in Homa and Harman. Now, Brian Harman, I love him. He's dogged. He's going to be up for the thing. He had a good Ryder Cup. But Max, man, golly, I love Max, but he hasn't played very well since, like, I can't even remember. So the form hasn't been there, but he's still got a nod. Maybe they're going on pairability. Maybe they're going on previous record. Maybe they're going on the fact that it's Max Homa. I'm not sure. That's just my take on it. But Captain Rick, I know this is smart.
They seem, I think Mark's right. They seem a little bit stuck between release patterns, Rick, where they're not really playing for now, but they're not really playing for the future either. Like everybody loves Max. Like I don't. This is not an indictment of him as a person or like his career. But if you're playing for now, you take JT, and if you're playing for the future, then you take Akshay, Dunlap. Take your pick of like whatever you want in there. Max has been. I was looking at this. The last 3 months, Rick, he's if you look at strokes gained among eligible Americans, he's been the third best Max.
Yikes.
So Grazerman and McGreevy both ahead of him.
Third best Max.
That's
when you said that, I could only think of one other Max. That's how that's how
I
bad that was.
didn't know who the other one was.
All I thought was Grazerman.
Grazerman would have been a really good pick just for the record.
He's hot.
Yeah, I would have been better than Homa. I mean, again, it's not an indictment of Homa. And I think it was weird because Furyk was like, well, he's a glue guy, he's intangible. Like, absolutely. Like I get it, but that's JT's role, and JT's playing better. Like if JT didn't exist, then you could like maybe talk me into Homa just for like the reasons that Furyk mentioned. But JT does exist. He's playing pretty good. I mean, certainly a lot better golf than Homa is. And it's just weird that they took him last year and didn't take him this year. Maybe that was Patrick's take, but that seems bizarre to me.
So the common criticisms here, Patrick, revolve around Max Homa being on the team, maybe Brian Harman being on the team. You hear a little bit of rumblings. Hey, Keegan's just played well once. Do you get him on the team? And then leaving out, Akshay, leaving out even Billy Horschel to an extent, leaving out Justin Thomas. So those are kind of the moving pieces that not everyone is satisfied with the way it shook out.
Yeah, I think the JT part is interesting where some are surprised he's not on the team. I'm not necessarily surprised he's not on because, like Mark said, with match play, you got to make putts. And Justin Thomas just had the worst putting year of his career. He was bottom 11, I believe, on the PGA Tour. And while it was much improved compared to 2023, the iron play still isn't like typical JT levels. He's ridiculously wild off the tee still. The wide range of outcomes there we saw seemingly every Thursday and Friday, where he'd get off to a great start, be on the first page of the leaderboard, and then on Friday he's barely inside the top 30 or top 40. And so I think I'm not surprised he's not on the team, but I am surprised in his place it's Max Homa. Because like KP said, he has just been dreadful. And I think I'm okay with the Harman thing because he's a very accurate driver of the golf ball. He's a very good putter of the golf ball. With Max Homa, what has he been elite at this year? What has he been very good at this year? I can't pick one part of his game. And even with JT, you could say he's a top 3 short game player. He can scrap it around. He has a ton of firepower. With Homa, I don't really know what he's good at the moment.
Well, totally. Like, yeah, this is great. Right?
This might take a little bit of expo. So I tweeted this out, and this is literally, so it's a rolling 36 rounds. So basically every 36 rounds, where are you at? Since you started gaining points in the President's Cup, okay, since the start of last year, Max Homa peaked 100 rounds ago. And he has been way worse than anybody else in contention here for at least 3 or 4 months.
He's trending though.
That's right. He is trending. He's got a small little uptick there. Billy Horschel, after getting off to a slow start, has been awesome. So my ideal team would have been Akshay and Billy instead of Homa and Harman. I'm okay with Harman. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but it feels like a little bit of a lame duck, right? I heard people say, well, I like Harman, but don't give me Keegan. Well, I know Keegan's going to be involved at Bethpage. Obviously, I know he's going to be involved. There's a chance that Brian Harman's not involved at Bethpage, so this might be kind of like a lame duck year for him. Akshay, I think, gives you an opportunity to get a great player with an interesting skill set that could potentially be on a lot of international teams moving forward, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have Brian Harman on the team. I think it is, unfortunately, objectively bad to have Max Homa on this team, and I hope he shoves it right in my pie hole and goes, 4-0-0. But I just do not see a path to him being on this team.
I mean, yeah, it's I'm with Patrick. Like, if you take Horschel instead of Homa, then I don't really have any complaints about JT not being on the team. But you took a worse version of JT. Like, you just you took the lesser version. I mean, again, this is not an indictment of Max. It's just the reality that the team glue guy who is not playing his best golf and is kind of a veteran on the team, well, like, just take the better version of that and take JT.
I want to add one more thing, Rick. First off, now you can see why it was 6 picks. People think picks are such a good idea. The picks are not a great idea. They're more of a curse than what they're a blessing, because you can only be wrong. If Max Homa wins, then, Furyk he was in the top 12. If he picks him and he goes badly, then everyone's going to point fingers at Furyk. So I can see why Keegan's lobbying for just 2 picks for the Ryder Cup next year.
Is that what he said? Is that what Keegan said?
This is the rumblings. Yeah, we don't know this for certain, but this is the thing. They're like, let people play their way in. I'll get 2 picks like back in the old days.
Wow.
If you're going to do that, they got to fix, then they can't just go off like pure money or whatever. They've got to fix the point system if they're going to do that.
Well, also, it could be a way for Keegan to play himself on to the team.
Well, I need to qualify. This is conjecture. We don't know this for certain, but there are rumblings around the place. So there's a little rumor. But then also, if you think about how Furyk went about doing this, like I said at the top of it all, this was the least controversial thing to do. So if you go and you reach all the way down the list to number 19 and you haul him into this team like what happened last year, I don't care what his record was at Rome, you are making enemies with Horschel and a number of veterans on this thing who've got a lot of say-so around the locker room and stuff. So I can see where Jim, in a way, was kind of keeping the peace in the team room kind of deal, and this is what it's going to be. I almost get the sense, though, that just like last year with the Ryder Cup, where Zach picked Justin Thomas, which, again, I still have issues with, and Keegan Bradley, I'm sure, does too. And he basically said to his boy JT, he's like, I need you to go and play now, and I need you to start playing well, which Justin Thomas then went and played a few events and played okay and found a little form. Maybe there's a little of this on the go to say, yo, Max, it's Napa in 2 weeks' time. Get yourself to Northern California, go get a little confidence, go play well over there, and then we'll see how the whole thing shakes out. So maybe there's some of that on the go too. But Max, going to 19 over the top of them would have been sacrilegious.
Max did commit to the Pro Core, the new event in Napa, so we'll see him in 2 weeks. And Pro Core Championship?
Not the anymore.
I don't know what Pro Core is, but it is the new sponsor.
When you become czar, can I petition you to just call everything by its city?
Oh my God, that's like first thing. Yeah, first thing. Yeah, that's the Napa Challenge or the Napa Championship or whatever.
Just Napa.
Whatever you want to call it. Final thing about this, and Patrick, I'll throw this to you. And I agree with Mark that going to 19 to get JT can't happen. But going straight down the list to seemingly avoid any drama
also can't happen.
I need my captain to have a little bit of gumption. Okay. I need my captain to lead. Okay. Not just avoid drama and controversy.
What was Horschel?
13, I think maybe.
I'll pull it up.
I think
that sounds right.
I couldn't find the list anymore.
Yeah. It's on ESPN.
Okay, I was looking on PGAtour.com.
17.
Was he that low?
Yeah, Chris Kirk was 13. Akshay, Eric Cole, Denny McCarthy, Erasure, Horschel, Hoagie, JT, and then the other JT at 20.
Yeah. No respect for Denny. Not even in the injury corner, the medical corner, by us. Shame on us.
What happened to him? Basketball injury?
He's got the same labrum that Harris English had in the hip.
The hip.
And yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he was saying it was better in the warmer weather at the end of the year, I think he was saying.
Yeah, it came out during Memphis.
Well, thankfully his ball speed's like 150, so he didn't have to worry about it.
Oh, that's rude. Rude to Denny so far this past couple months.
Super underrated.
Yeah.
In all seriousness.
What was the question? Oh, okay, Rick. You know what this reminded me of? I went down sort of a LeBron James funniest moments rabbit hole the other day.
A lot. Yeah.
And it was National Tight End Day in the NFL because every day has a National Tight End Day. And he's posting a video of himself, and you can see the laptop screen on his face, the light. And he's like, man, shout out to all my tight ends out there. So many good ones. And you can see him scrolling. He's like, Travis Kelce, oh, dog. George Kittle, so good. He's like, Mark Andrews, can't forget about him. He's like, love these tight ends. It kind of reminded me of what Jim Furyk did. He just scrolled down the list, and he was like, all right, Sam Burns, check. Tony Finau, that's my guy. We're doing that again. And he just really didn't put much thought into him. I saw a lot of people out there compare it to auto drafting in fantasy football, just throwing it on and then picking the team. So it is what it is. I agree with you, Rick, where I would have liked it's weird how he did go 7 through 12, which is on paper the least controversial, but talking through it, it is almost as if it's more controversial to do it.
Right. Why do we, I understand the captain has a lot more to do, but like they should have just why even announce them as his picks? They're just the next 6.
I think part of the problem is like these guys are so wired to avoid risk that it's almost like if JT or Horschel was ranked 13 and 14 instead of 17 and 19, like I wonder if he would have taken them, right? Because like they're so conditioned over the years to be like, oh well, this guy was just off the team, it's okay if I kind of slot him in at the end here. But because they were so far off, and it's like what even do we even know what goes into that ranking? Like it's from stuff that happened 18 months ago. So I don't know. I think that is probably part of it as well.
Yeah. Are you trying to win or are you trying not to fail? That NFL coaches deal with this all the time. Am I going for it? Am I, what am I doing? The other side, the internationals have also put together a very interesting team, and there's a lot of little wrinkles here. We're going to dive into that side after a quick word from our partners.
It's a Service Academy triple header on CBS Sports Network.
And we're back. The international squad, the home team, Royal Montreal, started with Hideki Matsuyama, Sung Jae Im, Adam Scott, Tom Kim, Jason Day, and Ben On. Captain Mike Weir added 6 more to his roster today. Christian Bezuidenhout, Corey Connors, Siwoo Kim, Minwoo Lee, Taylor Pendrith, and Mackenzie Hughes. Mark, by my count, that is 1, 2, 3 Canadians on this team. Notably absent, Nick Taylor. Notably absent, Adam Hadwin. Those were probably the next 2 that did not make the squad. Mike Weir was saying what a difficult phone call that was to make.
I'm sure it was a difficult phone call. And I know from, being privy to some conversations, the goal was to get as many Canadians onto the team as possible, given just the groundswell of support they're going to get over there. But in the end, I know the internationals had a recent form guide, like where you had that chart that was showing how people had been playing. And as far as Nick Taylor was going, I think everybody wanted him on the team just because of the dog that he is and the fact that he can putt when it means something, because the putting was very, very important. I know to Captain Trevor, certainly to then Elson Weir as well. And Mike Weir, of course, being the lead voice in all of this. So putting was important. But with Nick really waning form-wise over the last little bits, it was making it very hard to justify a selection because he was outside, I think, the 12. I remember the Friday morning, Thursday or Friday at Greensboro, where Nick was close to the lead at one stage. And this was good news, right? I had a number of buoyant international people that I'd be talking to. They're like, yeah, okay, we need this boy to come through. And then he kind of capitulated a bit over the end. So I think in the end, to me, there's no real surprises there. Cameron Davis played his way onto the team in the playoffs. Christian Besaidnot was always going to be a lock because of the way he putts, how accurate he is. He had a good President's Cup at Charlotte. Siwoo Kim was always going to be on the lineup because he's mercurial. He pairs off with Tom Kim really well. Min Woo, I mean, the guy oozes charisma. He's going to be the tip of the spear, likely. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you see him in a number of sessions. And then Taylor Pendrith had the win, playing with more confidence. Also played very well throughout the playoffs. So it seems to me, like looking at this list, that the internationals just went with their recent form guide, and they sort of gravitated, if there was a little unsurety, to people who are good on the greens. And so as far as I'm concerned, there's no real surprises here. I know they went down to go and get Mackenzie, but he's one of those guys, man. He putts beautifully. It's kind of his game, and he's up for the battle. So I personally, I'm kind of excited about the six that made it.
I do have to make one correction there. Cam Davis not on this team. I think it was Christian Besaidnot who you were looking for in that moment there.
Yes, sorry,
Mark.
Yeah.
Cam Davis, though, that's kind of the only issue, Patrick. The things I saw on Twitter, and I'll give my opinion in a second, are why is Mackenzie Hughes on this team when Cam Davis should have been on the team? He was ranked 8th in the final President's Cup standings. Did not make this squad. That's really the one that has given people a bit of trouble.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to what Mark said about putting. I think Sean Martin tweeted out that the U.S. team gained 22 more strokes on the greens at Quail Hollow compared to the international side. And you throw in Mackenzie Hughes, Canadian, feather in his cap obviously helps, but he's top 4 on the PGA Tour around the green, and he's top 4 on the PGA Tour on the green. He has the potential to be just a massive headache to play against. And I think going with him instead of Cam Davis, assuming Mackenzie Hughes was the last guy in based on the rankings he was, I'm okay with it because Cam Davis, yes, he went further in the playoffs. He played well at the BMW Championship. He obviously had the win, but it was a pretty lackluster year as a whole. And I think even he would admit that before he got the hypnotist on the payroll ahead of Detroit. So I'm cool with it. I understand why people would be upset. He was 8th in the standings. I believe Weir said at one point that the top 8 would get in, which if he read into that, that's a bummer. Younger talent, great golf swing, all that jazz was solid with Adam Scott at Quail Hollow. But I'm with Mark. I really have no problems with any of the picks.
Here's my take, KP. I give Mike Weir like an A-. I'll tell you what, hat tip, golf clap, whatever you want here, because I think it takes a lot of guts to leave Nick Taylor off this team, as he should have. Nick Taylor should not have been on this team. The guy that has become the face of Canadian golf, the guy that was supposed to be your pillar for this event, how difficult that it would have been wrong to put him on this team. And I'm glad he did not fall into that trap. So I give him a huge, huge hat tip for that. I'm okay with this. I would have had Cam Davis. I would have had Cam Davis over Mackenzie Hughes. That would have been the only thing that I would have done differently. However, it's match play. First man in wins. You put a little pressure on, rolling the rock. I don't even care that he's a Canadian. He's a short game specialist. It goes far in situations like this. I think this is generally a job very well done when I had much lower expectations for the way this was going to play out.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all of that. I think I'm with you. I mean, Cam Davis, Scotty Scheffler slayer back in 2022.
That's right.
They beat him and maybe Adam Scott beat Burns and Scheffler. But yeah, I'm with you on all that. I think the interesting part, I was just looking at the numbers, is if they had live guys eligible, what that would have done to it. Because you got Neiman, you've got Usti, you've got Mean Dean, you've got so many guys that Sebastian, like there's just so Cam Smith. There's so many guys that you could have, worked in there. That would have been really intriguing. And I think Patrick and I talked about this on HQ. I don't think this is like a done and dusted, it's over for the Americans. I think this is going to be like a real matchup. And I think McKenzie's kind of a dog. Like I really like him. It depends on who he gets and how that plays out, but I think he'll be up for it, which will be fun.
Along those lines too, something I failed to mention. I know that the golf course will be set up tight, and they're going to have rough in, and the rough's going to be long, and it's going to put an emphasis on putting the ball in play off the tee. That's what the Euros do against the Americans all the time when they're hosting, and it works out well. If there's a knock on Cam Davis, and I can vouch for this calling the golf at the last President's Cup. He and Adam Scott were paired together, and Cam had some tee balls that were like off the planet. And Adam carried him in times, and then when it came down to it once or twice, Cam Davis came through with a late eagle on the 17th hole in the one match for them to close it out. And then on the other hole, he drove it way wild and managed to get the ball on the green and make a putt. So I feel like with Hughes as well, short game aside, he just hits this really flat, very reliable sort of tee shot, cuts a little bit, and he's pretty reliable at finding fairways. So I think they're looking at course setup as well. Because if there is a knock on Cam Davis, he hits it high, he hits it far, and every so often he hits it a little wild. And so that's he would get tripped up with the way the golf course is going to get set up.
Yeah, Royal Montreal is the venue. KP, that match you were thinking of from 2022, Siwoo and Cam Davis 2-up on Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns. It was the only international point from that morning session on Thursday.
Thankfully, to counter the tight setup, we have Max Homa off the tee. He's gonna get it figured out. I mean, one of the more bizarre years. Like the trajectory, Ryder Cup, Master contention, the Masters, and then the rest of the year is just downhill.
So one of the things that I saw, KP, on Twitter, of course, which was like Max deserved this because of the Ryder Cup, which is the idea that he was like the only one who showed up in Rome, and he was awesome, and it was cool, and he made putts under pressure, all that fun stuff. I'm not sure I follow that line of thinking, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing from earlier, right? Of like, if you believe that, then you have to believe that JT deserved it for the previous 3 Ryder Cups or whatever. I don't know, whatever the number was. And JT's playing, like, if JT didn't exist, then you could maybe like talk me into what you're saying. But if JT does exist, so it should have, like, he's the only one that I would have put in place of Max as it relates to this conversation that we're having.
How about this, though? Just consider, I made the statement on PGA Tour Live last week. When you looked at the top 30 at Eastlake, I was like, there's a real changing of the guard on the PGA Tour, and the landscape is certainly shifting. Think about this for a minute. If I had to have said to you maybe this time last year that neither Justin Thomas or Jordan Spieth were going to be on this team, I don't think many folks would have bought that, and they would have basically lobbied big money to bet against me. So it is just a strange sort of a deal. And that's where, again, back to the US team with this young guard coming through, the vanguard, if you will. It is a curious, again, that you would go with, although Max isn't that old, but someone like Akshay. And with the international team, you can see how they went with Minwoo, and they've got 1 or 2 youngsters, first timers, Mackenzie Hughes coming through as well. So it looks like there's a little bit of that sort of this jiving between the current and what's happening for the next go around too.
I mean, yeah. And like, I think the other part of that, Mark, is who do you trust on this U.S. team right now outside of Scheffler?
Xander.
And Xander, yes. Sorry. Do you trust Cantlay, though? Do you trust Finau?
Well, Cantlay and Xander are immovable, so yes, I trust Cantlay.
Yeah, Wyndham.
I think Colin's pretty trustworthy, I would say.
He's found
Especially
his
if it's
game.
tight, like Mark said,
He's
with
back.
the way he drives the golf ball.
Yeah. I'm unconvinced.
Getting a little tight.
I'm unconvinced about this U.S. team. I just am. I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot. Maybe
and shame on me, Russell Henley. We don't want to talk about needing to hit fairways, needing to hit pristine iron shots, and needing to make 15 to 20 footers.
How about a sneaky 62 in the final round just to say, yo, you're not overlooking me this time again, huh?
And how about, I mean, I don't want to call people out right now, but how about PGA Tour Communications Twitter giving David Duval's son his one shining moment at Castle Pines for having the course record all these years ago, and then course redesign, Russell Henley, course record 62 on Sunday, not a peep.
That was a deep cut there, Patrick. Was this is this his first team to make?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is. Wow.
Yeah.
I thought he had one other.
Yeah, I kind of conflate the Kevin Chappell, Charlie there was a bunch of
I just assumed one of those guys over the years was Russell Henley.
Yeah, me too.
No, Russell, I'll say this about Russell too. I mean, I know him well. He is up for it. You know, the thing about Russell is he's so softly spoken and so khaki wearing, polo shirt wearing guy. He kind of blends into the environment, you know, and he doesn't stand out. If he had to wear like black, maybe someone would notice him a bit more. So you know, he just goes and shoots his score and then forgotten because he doesn't occupy headlines. He will be a headliner in Montreal. You mark my words because of the way the guy plays.
I'm in.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't just play 2 sessions or anything stupid like that.
Just me opening the door to the bus, Mark.
All right.
Couple of things. Minwoo is going to look sick in the international team gear.
Yeah. Minwoo always looks sick.
I know.
Hopefully it looks better than the green stuff they had at the Olympics for Australia. It was disastrous, man.
That was awesome, Mark. You loved it.
Gee whiz.
So good.
How is green and yellow? Why are the Oakland A's colors and Australia's colors the same?
There's only so many colors. They got it. Some things have to share.
Well, South Africa are green and gold. So when an Aussie wears the same colors as what we're supposed to, that's bothersome to me.
Well, it's just weird because it's most countries' colors are their flag, are like the same color as their flag, right?
God, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then you like think about Portugal or Spain or whatever, and then you've got Australia that's like, well, I know our flag's blue, but we're gonna look like the A's.
Yeah, they have like a different set of national sports colors.
Yeah,
Wallabies. Yep.
That's interesting.
A couple other items before I forget here. Mark, you'll be at the President's Cup.
Yes, sir.
I'll be at the President's Cup.
Yes, sir.
Let's get there. Let's get CBS on the horn. Let's do some live first cuts. We'll get everybody flown on up to Montreal.
I would love to. Let's do it.
How sick would that be?
Yeah, it would be great.
It's like we had our call today. Everybody's very bullish. Everybody's very happy about everything. Let's do live stuff. Let's do on-site stuff.
Yeah, but especially YouTube stuff. Remember, it's not.
That's right.
Audio. Yeah, audio.
By the way,
YouTube is big.
My big takeaway is CBS Sports wants to dominate YouTube. So I'm like, let's do it. That's all they talked about. YouTube.
Great.
Yeah.
The YouTube.
It's going to be like my crew last week for that creator challenge. Bunch of YouTubers that playing golf.
That was fun. Ton of people watch that, Mark. That got a lot of views.
Fat Perez is coming on my podcast after I'd slayed his golf swing.
That's unsurprising. We were talking on Thursday, Mark, about you did a great job, and I thought it was like your lane of like taking the golf seriously when people like Fat Perez were playing was it was awesome. Like that part of it was great.
They said when I was hired for the role, because you got a bunch of influencers and then me, they're like, listen, we want this to be like PGA Tour Space Camp. So we need you to call this like you would call stuff usually, and then just let the rest of it happen around you. So it was challenging, but anyhow.
Here's
awesome.
Here's Tyler Toney for his 11 on the par 3 14.
Yeah. After 3 in the water, he's lining this one up now. We're on a good run. Friends of the First Cut Pod are on a good run right now. Taylor Fritz on a good run.
Stop it. That's horrible of you.
It is true though.
Into the semis.
We've had the Bob Does Sports boys on. Good run for them. Now they're going on Mark's podcast. They're going to get the On the Mark bump. It's going to be nuts. I have one more announcement to make, but it's a medium-sized announcement. Anything else before I do that?
Fritz or Big Foe, Patty?
That's like rock and hard place. Foe's a DC boy. I know his childhood coach. Fritz's podcast guy. I'm gonna go Foe if he makes it.
Same. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's got the swagger.
Yeah.
Okay, I have two announcements. Josh has just informed me that he has the final one and done standings for the big pool. Let's see who won it, Josh. Bum, bada, bum. Whoa! From out of nowhere, Ray gets the job done with he must have had Scotty and got the $5 million because I don't remember seeing Ray towards the top much at all. And he runs away with it. $26.2 million. He went from 6th to 1st in the standings. Congratulations, Ray. Your prize is this recognition right now. Cody Six in 2nd place was in that top 5 seemingly all year long. Red Zupkis finished 3rd. The captain finished 4th. And Defoe Pro finished 5th. Congratulations to all who participated. What did Greg finish, Josh? 20th, something like that? Do we know? Josh is 16th. Good job, Greg.
Good job, Greg.
The run differential from Red Zupkis was pretty sick.
Oh, yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
That is tough.
Damn.
One final item here. We now have an official podcast email address that you can send all your questions, concerns, complaints to. So you don't have to send them to me. You can send them right to Josh. You can send your normal sport items. You can send your things you want us to talk about. And we will do just that on the show. So listen closely. The email address is firstcutpodcast@gmail.com. Josh says don't be weird, but I don't say that. He's going to have to read them. You can do whatever you want. Send him whatever.
Yeah. Sign them up for newsletters. I've unfortunately gone down this road of giving out my email on this program. It did not.
I tried to stop him. He was like, I'm going to give out my email. I was like, don't do it.
Did not end well.
Did it.
So give those messages to Josh now.
Yes. Again, that is firstcutpodcast@gmail.com. The link or the email address will also be in the description.
Cool.
I think we're done and right on time. Big thanks. We are back on Thursday for some more fun discussion, probably some season in review, all that good stuff. Big thanks to producer Josh, who does all the hard work behind the scenes. Mark Immelman @Mark_Immelman. Patrick McDonald @PMcDonaldCBS. Kyle Porter @KylePorterCBS. And you can find me @RickRunGood. This has been The First Cut. We'll catch you next time.